Hi and welcome to the Healing Hive Health Series at the Healthnox Clinic powered by the Academy of Champions. Today's topic is depression. Lots of our youth today nowadays complain about depression. And, I was no different when I was going through my early life, teenage life. You have highs and lows in life, and the lower periods are tough to manage. And clinical depression is something that's on the rise. So roughly from the 1990s till 2017, there's been a 50% increase in depression. And when I was going through my challenges with heavy metal poisoning, I also suffered from depression because I was specifically psychomotor neuron retardation. So every morning when I wake up, it was as though there was an elephant sitting on my chest. And it was an extremely tough time that I went through. And so depression is also an area which I believe that I have a semi-PhD on because of the extensive work that I've done. And a testament to that is basically the fact that I used to help surgeons and doctors come out of acute depression when I was in the UK. So, a lot of surgeons would come to me in acute depression and I would help them snap out. And so I'll be sharing with you what I learned on my journey pertaining to depression. So firstly, what is depression? So your hormones, your neurotransmitters affect your emotions. So in depression, essentially dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin levels are low. When you're happy, serotonin is high. And when you're in love, you have a high level of dopamine, high level of serotonin, high level of oxytocin. And there are numerous neurotransmitters, and it's not that these neurotransmitters, you can define it just high and low, because there is a possibility that some of these can be too high. So for example, if it's too high in terms of dopamine, then it leads to psychosis. You start imagining things. And so you have to keep these neurotransmitters, everything at the optimal level, at the optimal function. And so in general, depression, what we will be discussing today is basically we're just going to discuss the fact that when the serotonin levels are low. So what happens essentially? So according to science, the serotonin levels are low, but what does a person actually go through? And some of you listening who are suffering from depression will be able to relate to this, that when you are in clinical depression, or when you're really depressed, any stimulus or any input that you give your mind gives you a negative output. No matter what thought it is, you become a chronic pessimist. So you're bored, or you're pessimistic, you're frustrated, you're impatient, you're overwhelmed, you're disappointed, you have doubts, you have worries, you blame other people, you're discouraged, you're angry, you want revenge, you have hatred inside of you, you have jealousy, you're insecure, and you have fears, grief, depression. So these are emotions that are linked to depression. And when I have people come to me for therapy, etc., they are in a state where they are chronic pessimists. So whatever I would say to them, whatever input that I give, whatever stimulus that you give their mind, it results in a negative output. And these emotions and these thought patterns are what you see. Now, according to modern day medicine practitioners, what the typical approach is in allopathic medicine is that if you have a patient with depression, you will give them an SSRI, serotonin selective reuptake inhibitor. Right? And what the theory is that the body or the mind, it's not producing serotonin. So what these SSRIs such as Prozac do is that they block the serotonin in your brain. In your brain, they block the serotonin. And so the emotion that you feel is of happiness and nothing else. Now, it sounds great in theory, but what's the issue? What's the downfall? The downfall is beautifully mentioned in a book called The Love Anatomy by Dr. Helen Fisher. She mentions that there's a tremendous research that's been done on teenage girls that's come to the doctors with depression, and they're prescribed SSRIs at the age of 15, 16. And they take these SSRIs for almost a decade. So after 10 years, and they reevaluated what had happened, what was the end result. And what they realized was that these girls were worse off than what they had come to address in the first place. So a lot of these girls that were on long-term SSRIs, they actually ended up with a loss of dopamine, and the libido levels were low and their relationships suffered. So in the long term, SSRIs actually cause more harm than benefit. But in acute stages, you may need to use them, if it's in the short term. But I'll share with you even a better solution according to functional medicine. So when it comes to functional medicine, the question we don't ask is, why is it that the serotonin, why isn't it being produced, and why should we trap it? Rather, the question we ask is, why was it being produced? For example, if someone has depression at the age of 25, why was it being produced for 25 years and all of a sudden it's no longer being produced in the body? That's the question we ask. And then for that, we look into the reaction pathways. So what produces serotonin? So what essentially produces serotonin is dietary protein, from which you get tryptophan. Tryptophan reacts with enzymes to produce 5-HCP. 5-HCP then reacts with further enzymes to produce serotonin. Now the most amazing question that when I was studying this area, was that how is it that serotonin, one of the building blocks is dietary protein, how is it that the world meat production has increased nearly 5 times in the last century, and it's almost doubled per person amount eaten, 5 times, roughly 400% your dietary protein is increased, and depression is also increased by 50%. So surely if your dietary protein is being increased, which produces serotonin eventually, then your serotonin levels should lead to more happiness and depression should go down. So why is it that these two things are in conflict? And what I recall from Dr. Mark Hyman's book, the Ultramind solution, which I strongly recommend to anyone suffering from any mental health illness to read, is the Ultramind solution by Dr. Mark Hyman. It'll be a game changer for you. So essentially what he mentions is that although the dietary protein is increased, the availability of tryptophan is increased, the issue is your vitamin Bs, the things that act as your catalysts, your enzymes to produce the 5-HTP, to produce the serotonin. This is what's lacking. So we're lacking the nuts, we're lacking the green foods, the leafy vegetables, we're lacking these, which therefore do not end up producing the serotonin. And so in functional medicine, what we essentially do is we give the 5-HTP. We give this, right? And we give vitamin B100 or B50. I have B50 in front of me at the moment. We give this, and these two together form serotonin. So you can get results within weeks and months with functional medicine by giving people with depression, with low levels of serotonin, 5-HCP, and a good vitamin B complex, and you get serotonin. So that's how we answer the first stage. So address the acute. Anyone going through depression, you must address the acute symptoms that are appearing. You must address the root cause to begin with, right? Next, we have positive programming. I remember when I was going through my heavy metal poisoning and I was going through a phase of depression, what would really help me would be reading and having display on my screen positive inspirational quotes. So quotes by Rumi, quotes by all the great motivational personalities throughout history, and these quotes would help me positively program my brain, because positive programming leads to positive emotions and positive hormones being released. So your mind is a very powerful thing. And so I'm also someone that those that have watched my previous videos, that was sectioned 3 times, and I was declared manic depressive bipolar 2, and what I realized from that ordeal, and hopefully I'll share that some other time because it's quite lengthy, that 50%, according to even the allopathic doctors, that 50% is treated through medication, 50% is counseling. So get a good coach, get a good counselor, get a good therapist, because that is half your game. Get them to help you with positive programming, get them to work on your neuroplasticity, get them to work on your rewiring of your brain, get them to create new neurons, neurogenesis. This is vital. This is key. This is a key component, and this is something that I would even in UK, psychiatrist consultants used to come to me to ask me how they could help their patients come out of depression, and these 2 steps were critical. These were absolutely critical, and because the emotions that you need to inculcate are of hope, optimism, positive expectation, belief, enthusiasm, passion. Because in a nutshell, if I honestly describe what depression is, it's soul suppression. When you suppress a person's soul, when they want to do X, when they want to do Y, when they want to do Z, and they're unable to do that for some reason, the soul is suppressed. And because the soul is suppressed, eventually from the spiritual dimension to the physical dimension, it will exhibit itself as depression. And your neurotransmitters and all the biochemistry is an intermediate in between that. So basically, in terms of functional medicine, so if someone comes to me with depression, first thing, magnesium citrate, ionized alkaline water, as with most things. The reason is because they help in serotonin formation, and also magnesium is the main supplement to strengthen your nervous system. Because most people in depression, their nervous system become weak. So you need to give the magnesium, you need to give the ionized alkaline water. And then alongside that, what I suggest is 5-HTP and B100. But it doesn't really end there. So the last step is to heal the gut. So a lot of research is, confirmed that serotonin is actually formed in your gut. A lot of people that suffer from stress and worry a lot, the first cells to be depleted in your body when you're under stress are your stomach intestinal cells. So you need to take a good probiotic, you need to take zinc and ionized alkaline water. So a lot of people that suffer from stress, anxiety, tension, depression, the digestive system takes a hit. And so you can watch my video on gut repair, digestive disorders for more details, and you can get links on that. And overall, once your gut is healed, then serotonin begins to produce itself. And ionized alkaline water, studies have shown that this helps to produce serotonin. So overall, address the acute, positive programming, heal the gut. These are the 3 major steps that you need to take and implement in order for you to heal yourself from mental health illnesses. And specifically, I've highlighted depression, but in my book you can get the reaction pathways for other neurotransmitters, and also other illnesses such as bipolar disorder, etc. Those I might do later on in other videos, but I've given you the essential framework. Essentially, the steps are the same, but the different mechanisms into treating different illnesses, mental health illnesses. So thank you for listening, and as always, find a good medical practitioner, physician, before implementing any changes, or a good functional medicine practitioner. Thank you.